I'm immigration lawyer Mark Northam.
And I'm registered migration agent Gruszka.
And on this week's episode of Coming to Oz, we're going to talk about your rights and obligations as a visa holder, especially with employer-sponsored visas.
Yes.
What do employers owe you? What do they have to do for you? What do you have to do for them?
That's right.
All this week on Coming to Oz.
Stay tuned.
Welcome to Coming to Australia with Mark Northam and Gruszka, the show for people looking to get a visa and come to Australia. We'll talk about the latest Australian immigration regulations, strategies for getting visas and much more, including your questions. Information discussed on Coming to Australia is not intended as legal advice or immigration assistance and is current as of the date of the show's production. However, as migration law frequently changes, you should always refer to updated information. And now, from Sydney, the hosts of Coming to Australia, immigration lawyer Mark Northam and registered migration agent Gruszka.
Welcome to this week's Coming to Oz. I'm Mark Northam.
And I'm registered migration agent Gruszka.
We're happy to have you here. Now, in this week's show, we're going to be talking about the rights and obligations that you have as a visa holder, and this applies specifically to employer-sponsored visas.
Yes.
That's the 482, which is the temporary employer-sponsored visa, and the 186 and 187, which are permanent employer-sponsored visas. Mm-hmm. Now, to some extent, the rights and requirements apply more strongly to the 482 because for the entire duration of the visa, you must be paid and you must be given particular things.
That's right.
The 186 or 187, at that point, you're a permanent resident, but some employer obligations still apply.
Of course. And Mark and I thought this was going to be a really important topic because we're getting a lot of feedback from sponsors and also employees, more so with the 482 temporary skills shortage visa.
That's it.
And I think it's very important, and I think this will be a really good show for applicants who are going to be the visa holders to be aware of your rights as a visa holder in a temporary skills shortage visa, no matter what the occupation, no matter the duration that you decide to.
It's all the same.
Exactly.
And there may be rights that you're not aware of. So we want to help you know that.
Yes.
Look, let's be blunt. There are plenty of potentially abusive employment situations where someone comes here on a 482 visa, their only ability to remain in the country is based on retaining that visa, and the employer is either abusive or takes advantage of or does things that are not just right. Well, you know what? That's just not right.
That is not right. And we're here to tell you because the Department of the Department of Home Affairs, which they now call
It used to be.
Department of Immigration, now it's the Department of Home Affairs, DHA. So let's just make this important point to you that the 482 visa and all the sponsorship obligations are in place to protect you, the visa applicant. If there is any doubt that you feel that you are being undermined or underpaid and the conditions are not that of an Australian worker, then you need to pay attention to this.
You need to say something.
And you do need to say something. There are many things that are in support of visa applicants who feel that perhaps they might be taken advantage of. Yep. So, number one, you cannot pay for a migration outcome, which means if your employer asks you to reimburse you, and this is for the 482 temporary skills shortage visa, for the fees and costs associated with this visa, that is illegal. They cannot do that. No. And there are such significant sanctions to companies who think they can get away with doing that, especially if your occupation is on the medium to long-term list, which means, for example, if you are an engineer, which is on the long-term list, which is a pathway to PR on the 482 after 3 years, and your employer says, well, you know, I will provide you this wonderful opportunity of becoming Australian in 3 years. But they cannot do that to you.
They cannot ask you to cough up money
Correct.
in order to be sponsored. they can't. There are three parts to a 482 visa.
Yes.
The sponsorship application by
Correct.
the business.
Yes.
The nomination application again
By
the
the
business.
business, not you.
That's right. And only the visa application is by you.
Correct.
Now, in terms of paying the costs related to the visa application, that is a negotiable point
Correct.
between you and the employer.
Yes.
But for the sponsorship and the nomination applications,
Yes.
you cannot pay.
Absolutely.
They cannot ask you to pay. They cannot ask you to reimburse them later. They cannot ask you to take it out of your salary. all that
Definitely
business.
not.
No.
What about there's a major issue with the Skilling Australia Fund? This is a
SAF.
fee. It's called the SAF fee. This fee is associated with the what stage?
Nomination.
Now, as we go back, who is responsible for all the fees of the nomination? The visa applicant or the company?
That would be the company.
That's right. Under no circumstances does the visa applicant cough up or pay back the associated fees with the Skilling Australia Fund. That is illegal.
So no sponsorship fee, application fee, or migration fee for that part.
Correct?
No nomination application fee or staff fee or migration agent fee for that fund. If any employer or crooked migration agent or immigration lawyer expects you or asks you to cough up money for those phases, you just say no.
So, in the event where you think that the trade-off is going to be okay because you really want to stay in Australia, and that's the angle that a lot of
That's right.
companies
they dangle
use.
the Bondi Beach right in front of you there.
That's it. I will tell you this. If you decide to adhere to those conditions, what can happen? If the Department of Home Affairs find out that the company have passed on the buck, per se, and that you have forfeited the fees, which means you have paid for your visa, which is illegal, the company will be liable for big sanctions. But also, what gets cancelled from the company side?
Well, the ability to sponsor future people like you for your PR.
And what happens is if they refuse or cancel their SBS,
That's the sponsorship part of it.
what happens to people who are associated with that?
Well, not good things.
So, in the end, if you think you're doing the right thing and securing your future in Australia, if the company goes down and you are associated with that company, who goes down with it?
Well,
The visa applicant.
applicants, because everything becomes under a suspicion that there were cash payments or inappropriate payments made in the course of a visa application.
Absolutely.
And it's a mess. So it's just
It
not
is.
worth it.
Don't
Simple
do
as
it.
that.
Don't let them or people who are in a position to take advantage of you. If that does happen, you can report them. You're able to go to the Department of Home Affairs, Google, search in the website sponsorship obligations, and there is an ability to report sponsors who might or may be taking advantage of their workers. So
That's
it's
right.
a serious thing, and the Department of Immigration do not waste time. If there is an inquiry, they follow up with that immediately.
Very
Do not
quickly.
jeopardize your future in Australia for permanent residency, because if the company goes down, potentially you go down with it. If
that's a scary thing.
It is, and it's happened, and I've seen it, and Mark's seen it. If you have any concerns, please email us with your concerns. What's the email there, Mark?
It would be info@migrationresources.com.au, and we'll put that in the show notes. Let us
Absolutely.
know. We can help you out. That's what we do.
That's it. So thank you for paying attention to this very important
We don't
segment.
mean to be a kind of a
but-
downer here,
But I thought it
it's
was really
stuff.
important. We
Yeah, we talked about it before the show.
absolutely, and it's happening. The trends are changing. We're starting to see things, and we want to educate. And also, we are here to, make sure that your visas come through, and that whatever it is, it's temporary residency or permanent residency, that you're protected as a visa applicant. And I think we're doing the Department of Home Affairs, a good justice here by reinforcing their policies and their legislation.
Well, that's true. And you know what? No exploitation, no taking advantage.
That's it.
Now,
So,
Monica, why don't you tell them a little bit more about the specific obligations that sponsors have to do in terms of pay and things like that?
Well, this is another important point, is that you must, depending on your occupation, so let's just pick, what's one of the common, if you're a chef,
All right.
and a company says, I want you to work for my beautiful restaurant. And
Yummy.
Yeah, and you're a qualified chef, and you say, have 5 years experience. Well then, you must be paid the equivalent market salary rate for for someone who is qualified and has your experience that is also Australian. So let's just say we have a sous chef, and a sous chef is on $70,000 per annum as an Australian, and the sous chef has an Australian qualification and has 5 years experience. Then that means you must be paid the market salary rate of that occupation, because you have similar qualifications and you also have similar experience. Now, an important point to tell you, there are 2 kind of benchmarks we need to refer to. One of them is naturally the market Australian salary rate for your occupation, but there is also another acronym called the TISMIT, which is the threshold for
temporary skills migration income threshold
index. Yes, that's right.
TSMIT.
The TSMIT, that's exactly right.
It's like the minimum wage for 482 visas.
So the Department of Home Affairs have indexed a salary called the TISMIT, and this rate is $53,900. It's been this salary for a while, and that means
maybe time to change.
I think we need to put it up. Basically, the Department of Immigration have said you cannot pay a temporary resident who is being sponsored less than $53,900, because that is what the Department of Home Affairs have researched and justified. That's the minimum salary that you can live on.
Yep.
Anything less than that means you cannot survive. So that's why it says to protect you.
There are a few exceptions to that, which we won't go into in a lot of detail. Labor agreements, the DAMA agreement for the Northern Territory. There are a few things where the business can sort of combine salary and benefits to get to 53.9. But outside of those special deals, if you're coming in under the Standard Business Sponsorship, or SBS, you must be paid the Australian Market Salary Rate, or the AMSR.
Yes.
And that AMSR must be at least $53,900.
Exactly.
If the market salary rate is 45, it will not work. End of story.
Which is wonderful for you.
Yep.
So if anyone says, I'm going to give you a package of 40,000 plus super, you know that off the, straight away, it is below the TISMIT. You cannot survive. And that to me is extortion. So know your rights. If you are a qualified chef and your salary is approximately $70,000 based on your qualifications and experience, what happens if someone says, all right, Mr. Chef de Partie or sous chef, we're going to offer you $55,000, but you're qualified and the Australian market salary rate is 70. What happens?
That's not going to work.
That's right.
That's the end of that tune.
That's it. You must be paid in accordance to what an Australian is being paid for at your level.
That's right. Whatever an Australian makes with similar work experience and qualifications is what you have to make. They cannot get away with employing people on 482 visas for under the market rate.
That's right.
Very important.
So there are 2 things, if you're going to take away from it. What I want you to do is Google in Australia what the pay scale is for your occupation based on your qualifications, also how many years experience you have.
That's it.
That is what is going to give you the thumbs up if you are approaching a potential sponsor and you want to know what your potential median salary is. Google pay scale for your occupation and you can slide it. Actually, you can see, based on users' experience.
Yep.
Another important point is the location of where the work will be.
That's
regional is a little lower.
Yep.
And
cities can be a lot higher.
And immigration, when you're a migration agent, we know if your occupation or your job offer is in Sydney, we have to provide an average pay scale for your occupation in that city. However, if you are in regional parts of Australia, we must provide evidence of what your salary will be in accordance to other people who are Australian with your experience in regional parts of Australia. Those things matter. So take that into, yeah, absolutely. Very passionate. You and I are quite passionate about it.
We see so many horror stories of this stuff all the time.
Absolutely. When it comes to advocating for the migrant, that's Mark Northam and myself.
That's what we do.
Exactly.
We have one more point to make, and this is something that we see, and this is sort of the, if you will, the dark underbelly of the business.
Yes.
There are certain employers that expect, demand, or ask their employees to contribute their own salary, to pay them that salary under the table or in cash or bank transfer or some crooked way, and then the employer essentially pays that back to them as salary.
Exactly. And where we're seeing this, for example, you know the word caveats or caveats, as you say.
Caveats.
Caveats are, for example, where, marketing specialist, we have, supply and distribution manager. Those occupations where once upon a time it was abused.
Yep.
Anyone could have been a supply and distribution manager. Anyone with loose qualifications could have been a marketing specialist for your local, downtown store. So let's use this. If your occupation states you have a caveat, that means the caveat says that, let's use marketing specialist. If you are a marketing specialist, and this is where it protects you, that you need to have a minimum salary of $65,000 and the company must have 5 or more employees, and the annual turnover, the gross annual turnover of the company must be more than $1 million. You need to be aware of any caveats because that protects you, but that also keeps companies honest, because if you are a qualified marketing specialist, the market salary rate is $65,000, and someone who is a company would pay a genuine marketing specialist that amount of money. So that is there to protect the interests of you, the potential visa applicant.
That's it. And for the 482 visa, and currently the caveats only apply to the 482. However, we expect to see them applying to the 186 and 187 at some point, one way or another.
Yeah, that's it. So caveats don't apply for regional at this present point in time.
Not at the moment for 187.
That's right.
You can find that on a fantastic website we love to promote, because we like to say the guy's name.
Yes, we do.
And that is
Rayola.
ANZCOsearch.com. Shall we spell it?
ANZCO search.com. Is it AU? It's not .com.
.com.
ANZCOsearch.com.
That's the one.
Subscribe. It's for free. It's going to be the most incredible source that you can have.
He should be a sponsor. We're going to have to hit Raul up for a little sponsorship.
This is for you.
There you go.
Let's promote you.
But it's a fantastic website.
It is. And
check
we're also on there. We're
That's
also
right.
promote the migration show on
That's
there.
it.
That's it.
So check out ANZCOsearch.com. Check out your occupation. See if there are any caveats for the 482. Most of all, know your rights as a migrant. If you have any questions, let us know. We're here to help.
We look forward to catching up with you in our next episode. Stay tuned.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
See you then.